say you wanna watch a drama. You say you wanna watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama, or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler, so you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch potatoes unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because, like all good evolutions, we had to rise up to meet the times. And no, we're not talking about toilets. Yet. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays. And as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the website or the podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, via Google Play, Spotify, and now on iHeartRadio and CastBox to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Supernatural, Orange is the New Black, Gotham, the Marvel shows on Netflix, Stranger Things, iZombie, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, The Good Place, and The Crown. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Altered Carbon, Doctor Who, Schitt's Creek, Westworld, Riverdale, Fuller House, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, How to Get Away with Murder, Will and Grace. The DCTU series will catch up on the first 2 seasons of Black Lightning, and the Star Trek 50 Plus series will talk Season 2 of The Next Generation. We'll be launching new panels covering Mr. Robot, Charmed, Outlander, the Breaking Bad universe, This Is Us, The Orville, Big Little Lies, and The Good Doctor. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll put out some musical stops for our Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. We'll revisit one of the all-time and most-watched classic sitcoms, MASH. We'll consider the moral implications and quick cancellation of Dollhouse. We'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap. We'll become embroiled in all of the crazy plot twists of revenge. And we'll thank the Golden Girls for being friends. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers, comedy shows, Comic-Cons, and game stores. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in these semi-quarantine times. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to our website, our YouTube channel, our Apple iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on CastBox. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback! Just don't show up at our houses unannounced because your toilets flooded yours. Call a plumber and a contractor already. That's also foreshadowing. Today, we're around the water cooler and discussing Season 6 of senior-oriented situation comedy Grace and Frankie, which was released to the Netflix streaming library on January 15th, 2020, with a total of 13 episodes, which means, for the record, that this show is available to Netflix subscribers exclusively, as it is Netflix-produced original content. To remind the listener, Grace and Frankie is an American comedy drama web television series created by Marta Kaufman and Howard J. Morris for Netflix. The series stars Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin in the title roles of Grace and Frankie, 2 unlikely friends who are brought together after their husbands announce that they are in love and plan to get married. Sam Waterston, Martin Sheen, Brooklyn Decker, Ethan Embry, June Diane Raphael, and Baron Vaughn co-star in supporting roles. The series follows Grace, played by Fonda, a retired cosmetics mogul, and Frankie, played by Tomlin, a hippie art teacher whose husbands, Robert, played by Sheen, and Saul, played by Waterston, are successful divorce lawyers in San Diego. Grace and Frankie's lives are turned upside down when Robert and Saul announce that they are in love with each other and are leaving their wives. Now, the women, who have never particularly liked each other, are forced to live together and learn to unite and cope with difficulties. On September 4th, 2019, the series was renewed for a 7th and final season, consisting of 16 episodes, making it the longest-running Netflix original series, with 94 episodes total. As of March 12th, however, production was halted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is unknown when Grace and Frankie will resume production. Today, our feisty group of gal pals, namely Krista, Amy, and Samantha, have reconvened around the water cooler to offer their reactions, for better or for worse, to Season 6 of Grace and Frankie. Before we do, as always, I'm going to take a moment to double-check the panel's temperature because, after all, as we all know, sometimes a TV show can take turns for the better or the worse in our heads, or can continue its level of awesomeness or lack thereof, depending upon its story evolution. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed all of Grace and Frankie to date and will, let's face it, discuss sensitive plot points, sight gags, jokes, and other elements best enjoyed on a first watch. So for those of you who are not caught up on this show, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Hello. Hey.
Are you ready to talk about Season 6, the penultimate season of Grace and Frankie?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. And of course, we are doing this virtually in semi-quarantine due to the aforementioned pandemic. So if you hear the standard Zoom hiccups, we're using the Zoom. So what I'm going to do is take your temperature along the CPU standard character question, which changes with each show we do. I have tweaked the character question, not a lot, not dramatically, but enough to accommodate our 6th season. So what I'd like you to do is remind us who you are and answer the question, and we'll do it that way. Sound good?
Yep. Yes. Sounds good.
You have to be audio. It is a podcast, and it's virtual. Okay.
All right. Good enough.
All right. So how do you feel about Season 6 of Grace and Frankie along this character question? What can you say? You're ecstatic about everything the show has to offer. It's given you a new lease on life, and you're ready to sing your happiness and joy for this show to the rooftops. Though you also believe it might be starting to show some warts, like secretly donating a chunk of money to your adored community theater without your husband's knowledge, and selling off your carefully chosen grave sites, also in secret, to make up the shortfall. Or the specter of prostate cancer. You still adore it, however, like Robert Hansen. You really love it, but you feel guilty for doing so. You know it's not your family's and even some of your friends' cup of tea, but it makes you happier than you've been in years, and you believe that your loved ones will watch it and will come around to your way of thinking. Once they properly express their feelings in a healthy, constructive way, that is, even if healthy and constructive is somewhat inappropriately assertive, like Saul Bergstein. You have so many feelings about this show! You're up, you're down, you're high, you're inventing toilets that rise up for senior users, because this show about the winter years is so wonderfully fun and not at all cold, unlike your stash of Mountain Dew. Whatever you are, this show is nothing like you've ever seen before, and it leaves you with so many feelings, though you do relate to the times at which it is prone to melodrama for laughs, like Frankie Bergstein. It's messed up in all sorts of ways, but you're willing to go with it because that's what a cool, hip, young business owner has to do nowadays. Besides, you like more of it than you care to admit, especially Frankie, she's like your coolest aunt, and Barry the accountant, he's surprisingly handsome. Plus, you feel that this show empowers you to not have to filter your judgments about what you see, even if you probably should, like Brianna Hansen. You did not like it, or anything about it, at first, until you became accustomed to the situations being portrayed. You then started to relax, and found the show to be not half bad, or not as bad as you thought it might be after all. In fact, it's become a great comfort to you in times of stress and emotional peril, and let's face it, Frankie is like everybody's best friend. Plus, it's inspired you to be more willing to try new things no matter how spontaneously, including a second marriage, like Grace Hansen. You think it's all right, or that it's improved somewhat since you started watching, but really you're spending more of your time trying not to fall off the wagon, and as such, you aren't so apt to pay attention to what's going on with this show, like Coyote Bergstein. You dutifully watch it because your family watches it. However, the show is deeply flawed to you, and you're mostly only going along with it because that's what you have to do out of loyalty for your family. And or you at least find the Allison character likable, like Nwabudike or Bud Bergstein, or you don't like it. Some things have grown on you, like the creepy but complicatedly attractive alcoholic character and the two gay fathers and the prospect that the younger sister might soon be the outspoken older sister's boss, but you're really just trying to do the best you can with what you've got, as far as this show is concerned, like Mallory Hansen. Who would like to start?
I'm Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
Samantha. Hi. I ended up watching the season twice, and I have a lot of feelings about it. The first run-through or viewing, I was very much on Grace, and I don't know why it wasn't what I expected it to be. but I was disappointed on my first watch. And then I went back and watched the season again because that didn't jive with every other season I've watched, and ended up loving it like Frankie.
Okay, last time you were thoroughly a Frankie with a little dash of Robert because of the season finale. But I think you saw Robert more negatively than I intended it because you didn't love the season finale.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yes, that's in fact what you meant. Okay, great. Welcome back, Samantha.
Hi, I'm Krista.
Hi, Krista.
And I was a Brianna last time, and I continue to be a Brianna.
You also had a bit of Robert last time.
It has its moments of, like, peak excitement that I thoroughly love. I was and there's a little bit of Robert because they stuck the landing. That last episode was, like, chef's kiss excellent. And it really kind of brought it all together in a way that I was worried it was going to jump the shark for a hot minute there. And maybe I need to rewatch, like Samantha did, to find the Frankie. But for me, it was very uneven. But as a rule, I love this show. So that's where I'm at.
All the feelings. Definitely watch it a second time.
Okay.
So maybe there's secretly Frankie there after all. Welcome back, Krista.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hello. Last time I was Frankie. This time, I don't know. It's really hard to choose just one, which is normally my MO, but I'm really going to try to this time. Man, I think I'm Robert this time. I think I've jumped a little bit. I love this show. Like Samantha, I watched it twice. I watched the second time through earlier this morning before we podcasted, and I liked it even better the second time around than I did the first. I definitely agree with what Samantha said. Sometimes, on the second viewing, you find so much more, and it did feel very even to me, so I will disagree with Krista on that one a little bit. Yeah, but I agree. It like Krista said, it stuck the landing with that last episode. It's one of the best episodes I've seen from Grace and Frankie in a while. So I'm a Robert. I'm looking forward to season 7, and I can't wait to chat today.
All right, welcome back, Kristen.
Okay, so that for now leaves me, and I'm Amy. Hi.
Amy.
So last time I was Frankie with just a sprinkle of Brianna. I have to say, I can't just pick one. So I do have to say I probably am more Brianna with a sprinkle of Frankie.
Oh,
so those
inverted.
What's that?
Inverted.
I know, isn't it weird? But yeah, I there were moments, and again, I only watched it one time, but there were moments early on that I was like, no, I still love the show. I love the shenanigans. It's definitely like funky. Like you're like, what now? What is going on now? Which I love, but it also fits in kind of the Brianna world of our character question. I still love the show. I still love its ups and downs, and I love the spontaneity of it. And, I can suspend my disbelief quite a bit with this show, which makes me feel a little bit Frankie as well.
Okay. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you.
And of course, my name is Kylie. I both moderate and participate on this panel, as is often the case. Last time I was Frankie with a dash of Brianna. I am going to remove the dash of Brianna and just stay Frankie. To me, the show is consistently inconsistent. I don't think there's anything remarkable about this season that makes it different from any of the other seasons. I think it always depends upon the situations that they've decided to thematically weave the season story around, and this one just happened to be toilets and Shark Tank, so maybe that informs your opinion and maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but to me it's in keeping with the general spontaneity, as Amy said, and wackiness of the show. I enjoy it quite a bit. It always makes me laugh. It's the kind of television show that's sort of non-committal in the moment, where you're watching it and you're interested, but it's not like your mind wanders when you're watching it or anything, but you don't have to like totally focus in on it. It's just, it is what it is, and there's national treasures at the heart of the cast, and what more can you ask for? I have so many feelings, so therefore I'm Frankie. So welcome back, panel. Great to have you all around the water cooler, even though it is a virtual one again. And we're going to talk about season 6. So we'll start with the general. You gals have already hinted at a lot of it. What did you like? What didn't you like? Let's start expounding.
I'm going to way jump ahead to that final moment of the finale.
Well, that's just full steam.
Yeah.
You can't start at the end and work backward.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, because that to me was and that's what really made me want to go back and be like, okay, I was probably wrong about this season, because it felt so perfect of like, I just imagine the next season, if they're all living together, being a total odd couple moment, and Felix and Oscar tendencies up the wazoo. So that was kind of the redeeming moment of the whole season for me, and I was glad that having that feeling and gone back and rewatching it, I saw more nuggets throughout my rewatch of nice little moments amongst the family, like the wedding and, oh gosh, just everything.
Okay.
Talking about the ending, how everything led to them, all four of them living at the beach house again, and how it wasn't, I still am cranky about Peter Gallagher potentially not being there in the future. I will be very upset if he doesn't at least make a cameo in season 7. But how it wasn't necessarily a clear path from episode 1 to episode 13, I think. Especially regarding Grace, of seeing her get everything she wanted, and then really, I mean, she always comes back to Frankie, and we expect that, but I was interested to see the path, that how she got there. And then, of course, the Brianna Mallory stuff, because sometimes their work stuff is so boring, and it's like, come on, guys, you're adults. Like, I know this isn't real, but come on, stop being mean to your sister.
I thought that was one of the more interesting parts of the season, though, was their work dynamic. But that was also something that their dynamic as sisters has always been something that I have found slightly problematic, that this season I was like, and we'll talk about it more because there's a question about it, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I actually found it quite a little more interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Amy on that. I really liked Brianna and Mallory's working relationship this season. I don't know, I got that sisterly vibe from them this season, which was really, really nice. And I think, how they've set things up to go into season 7, I can't wait to see it. I think
I am excited, yeah.
It's going to flip things on its head a little bit. And yeah, it's going to present some interesting opportunities for those two.
Well, and I also think it's interesting when we talk about the siblings, like the children, the adult children. For season, like early in the series, I did not care for any of them. I didn't care for them at all. And they've really grown on me, and their stories have been, their character development has been meatier, like more meat to it, and not just like the surface. So I feel like that the show has given them more, which I really like, because if it had stayed, if I still had the same opinion in season 6 that I had like in season 1 or 2, they'd be unbearable characters to me.
Oh yeah, because before they were just filler. And even now, until this point, it's like they put her there to balance out the two boys on the other side, so that there was a balanced number of kids. And I liked her getting her due of, like, you realize she's been doing actually a lot of work behind the scenes at Say Grace. Yeah. And it's finally paying off for her. On the other side, it's finally caught up to Brianna. But that moment with the scent, is it Beach Rose?
Yeah.
Yes, the iconic Beach Rose.
It's like, that was just a hilarious episode to me, as it sets up to be so defensive, and then it starts to unravel. And just wonderful timing, how they parsed that episode out.
I enjoyed that episode. That was probably one of my favorite episodes, other than the finale itself, because the fact that it, like you're saying, it unraveled, but it not only unraveled, it dived straight into an intervention for the entire family. Something that they sort of acknowledge in the moment, but then sort of don't acknowledge in the moment. And I'm hoping that that piece kind of comes back in season 7 as something that they actually seriously talk about. I'm going to hint at this table read because I did watch it, and that I'm hoping that the joke of Grace's perpetual alcoholism kind of blossoms even further into the final season, because it's always been hinted at, but now it's kind of an actual joke focal point, and that episode being kind of the creme de la creme of it, and I don't know, I just laughed so hard. And the fact that it turned out really well in the end, but it started one way and ended the other way, and it was just, and beach rose of all things. And the beach rose, by the way, is the smell of the tablecloth linen, because she was so drunk she had passed out on her patio table. So
just the visual of her totally unconscious on that table was so funny. Like, I got an actual belly laugh out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
Was she just dreaming that she had the shot that like amplified the beautiful smell of the sea breeze coming in? It's like, was that a dream while she was passed out, or did she have that shot at one point and then she passed out? I don't know. Just
maybe a little of both.
Maybe a little of both.
It doesn't matter, but Jane Fonda probably, that was one of her funniest moments series-wise for me. Just that whole sequence was pretty laughable.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
This moment had a lot of those almost like antic moments sprinkled throughout, and I liked that they gave almost each character one of those. Like with Bud and his ex that he thought he lost his virginity to.
Oh my god, I was so embarrassed for him.
Yeah,
He had sex with a couch.
That's with a very comfy couch.
Oh my
And then Allison, who she's not normally that funny of a character, how later in that same episode, they're talking about like pulling over and having sex in the back seat of her car. And she actually asked, but I look better than the back seat, right? Wow, I'm like, okay.
It made her so much more likable to me.
I was thinking that too. Like, I actually liked her. They made her more of like a relatable, funny human character, and not just like this caricature that is Bud's wife. Like, I thought it was funny, and I thought her response to everything was like, okay, she's being cool about it.
Yep.
Not like getting on his case anymore, because that was totally mortifying.
Okay, but how did you feel about the fact that her and Saul went to Ancestry.com or equivalent to put Bud's DNA through to find, biological, genetical partner?
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Another unraveling point of like, you can just see it going off the rails before it took off.
Yep.
Yeah, I was
Slowly
kind of
initiated
uncomfortable
by
with
her.
that little piece of the story. I mean, I don't have to be comfortable with all of it, but that part I probably could have done without, where I'm like, okay, we can move on. That's how I felt.
And that isn't in line with the characters. They're usually pretty, they do right by Bud, usually.
Yeah.
But a lot of this season was Saul, almost, having his midlife crisis moment of really not acting like himself. For I think a lot of the season, with the fighting and the motorcycle and the kind of all over the place.
Well, remember, that came on the heels of prostate cancer, though, so there's a lot informing that midlife crisis. And then you've got Robert, on the other hand, since we're talking about that couple, going behind Saul's back with financial decisions of a, hefty nature, 5 digits. $20,000 is like, you name a building or a dressing room after a person donation. It's not like, small potatoes. And they're retired, so that's kind of a big deal.
But out of that moment, we get the funny elements of Robert becoming a Lyft driver under the name Bobby H or Bob H. Which, if you look in, his profile picture on Lyft of him as the driver has like sunglasses on, so he's not instantly recognizable. And then trying to do almost like an open house style to try to sell their beautiful gravesite plots that like have the sunset view and trying to make his money back that way. That opened up some really good moments for him throughout this little financial crisis that they were having.
I wish they would have done more shots of him driving people around, because I swear I have had him as a Lyft driver, like that exact interplay he had with a customer.
Have you had the local community theater actor just serenade you the whole ride?
Oh my god, that was so...
No, I can't say
hilarious.
that.
Oh my god.
No, but I have had a Lyft driver argue with me about theater.
Oh my gosh.
So.
He would. But Robert totally would.
You had Robert.
In response to Samantha's about the antics, my favorite was Frankie just popping in and getting Grace off the toilet.
And like Grace described it as the Kool-Aid man popping in.
Yes.
That was such a good way of describing that.
Yeah.
Really?
They're so good for each
The
other.
statue and the towels. I'm like, that's not a solution. That's a workaround.
It's a Band-Aid.
That's like my troubleshooting brain being like, I would get in trouble if I left someone like
Those two women have really never been better, and they're very comfortable with each other, and I love the fact that their friendship kind of feeds in on the friendship on the series and then back out again. The whole toilet plot line, I mean, even though it feels a little recycled from Vibrators and Yam Lube, it still is interesting to me that this is Frankie's brainchild. You know, I helped her off the toilet, so therefore she needs independent help off the toilet without needing to use a statue. That would be ideal. And then
she's using her critical thinking.
correct. Although critical thinking inspired by whatever substance she's abusing that day. And then it just goes from there. It's so funny, and it feels almost, it's just like an accelerated build every time, every season. This time they've kind of perfected that cyclone of build, I feel like, because it was frenetic by the finale, but it was totally hilarious.
The only portion of that storyline that fell flat for me was the Shark Tank component. That felt forced to me.
Really?
And just even the way that episode was shot to try and mimic how Shark Tank as a show is shot too, it just didn't quite vibe.
You know, that's funny that you say that, because I was just about to say the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, I love the Shark Tank.
I thought it was hilarious. And because I watched Shark Tank too, I was like, look at, they got all of the sharks there.
Oh, I adore Shark Tank.
Oh my God. But, you know, I understand what
It's
you're
all
saying.
coming out.
For me- What's that?
It's all coming out. 3 out of 5 Grace and Frankie panelists watch the Shark Tank. Kristen, did you want to make an admission here?
I don't. I do not watch the Shark Tank.
Okay. Shoot.
I used to watch the Shark Tank. I'm a former Shark fan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch it every day, but anyway.
I don't do it every day.
Yeah, only part-time. Anyway, I thought it was really fun because it was like, again, for me, it went back to that, like, I'm so embarrassed for them, but this is really funny. Like, if I actually saw this as a real episode, I'd be like, those women are insane. How are these people entertaining them? But I loved that they incorporated that, and maybe because they went through the lengths to make it feel like an actual episode. But I can see how it would feel kind of stale or kind of forced. It did feel sometimes a little unrealistic, but the show's kind of unrealistic sometimes. So for me, I was like, that's hysterical. I thought it was really
It totally vibes that Frankie would be like, this is how we're going to get our money.
Yes, true. And I think maybe part of my feelings of anti that are along the lines of, even though I adore Peter Gallagher as an actor, I could not stand him as Grace's husband. Oh,
Yeah.
things are getting controversial. I can tell from the faces.
No,
I liked him until he told her not to make the deal with Mr. Wonderful. Or no, was it Cuban?
Cuban. It was
Well,
Cuban.
that's what got me. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
If you're not going to give her the money, which we didn't know the reason why he couldn't give her the money up until a little while later. It was like, don't tell her not to make a deal with a shark then. If you can't, like,
Yeah.
he's going to be loyal to you, jerk.
I love Peter Gallagher too. Love him, still love him so much. But Nick, I was like, I'm feeling other feelings for you right now that are not favorable. He wasn't as likable this season, which is okay because we're discovering things. It's like Mr. Perfect can't be perfect all the time. So what's not perfect?
And
Yeah.
I am angry because they did Nick dirty, A, the writers. And secondly, Grace deserved to have her happily ever after. Damn it. And I wanted him, some men are perfect, and she deserved one.
Well, but isn't Frankie also her happily ever after? Frankie keeps saying how they're
Frankie is her heterosexual life partner. That is an accurate statement. And I am glad that Nick gave them all the money in the couch.
Me too.
But
True.
I kind of liked them as a weird little trio.
I mean, he calls her kooky. It's cute.
I love it. I love it.
And I mean, Peter Gallagher, again, is just dreamy. So,
Yeah.
like, once you
Totally
get past
dreamy.
that,
Yeah.
Like that'll never change for me. He'll always be dreamy. But you know, they threw some stuff in there for Nick that I didn't mind, as far as like, okay, you're making me, you know, it's you're showing his faults, which is much more interesting than a perfect character. But I was still like, God, how could they do Grace like that with Nick? Like,
Right?
So
I don't know. I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It, like you said, Amy, it makes him more interesting as a character. And I don't know. Yeah, she does deserve a happily ever after. I want to see her happy, but if it doesn't equal that she's with a guy, but she's really happy with Frankie and living in the beach house together, then I'm good with that. I don't know. I just feel like she and Frankie, I want to see the series end with them still in the beach house. Like that's the show to me. If they have guys come into their life, great, but I'm all about the two of them.
Exactly. And
that's all you can hope for is friendship like that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sam, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, back at ya. Just that she lost herself in the relationship and became so kind of submissive into his life versus them building a life together.
Yeah.
And you kind of saw that, as the season progressed and she was disappointed in herself. It was like, yes, what are you doing? So, but agreed, Amy, that, they're the buds, they're the friends. Like, that's what it's all about.
That all being said, I was mad at Grace for not telling her husband that she can't get off the toilet. Like, if that happened to me, my partner's name is Nick, so I would just be like, Nick, help me, please. For real, though, I'm stuck on the toilet. Because I have no shame. And I feel like in a relationship, you can't have that, so,
You can a little bit, because I wouldn't tell my fiancé that I'm stuck in the toilet and I can't get up. I feel like that's, like what, Mary Steenburgen's character, Nick's, ex-wife said, intimacy is gross. And it can get real disgusting in the things that you share with each other, but there's a limit. Like, I'm not going to explain every moment I have in the bathroom, and if I were unable to get up off the toilet, I don't know if I want him coming in and helping me off. I would probably devise a system like Grace, honestly, right here. I would bring a statue into the bathroom.
I just want to say that this is an interesting revelation, because I was going to make an argument for generational, but now I'm retracting that in my brain. What we have is a real life Grace and Frankie sitting on our panel.
Oh my God.
We're super gross, so we just don't care.
You have to also remember that Grace is in the most recent seasons, she's just getting comfortable with her age and marrying a younger man and not, her being independent. And so it doesn't surprise me that I'm not telling him I can't get off the toilet. He's barely with me as this, an 80-year-old woman or whatever, or 70, however old she is. But she's not 80, 70? How old is Grace?
80.
She's supposed to be 80.
Okay, so I was right about that. I just second-guessed myself. But it's believable to me that she would be like, oh, hell no. Mm-mm.
Well, and she already had that big moment with Nick a couple seasons ago where she, what was it? She had problems with her knees, or was it knee replacement?
Yeah, she had surgery.
Yeah, she had surgery. And she had the cane, and she had the breakdown where she took off her makeup, took out her hair extensions, and it was very vulnerable with him. So
exactly what I was thinking of.
We've had that moment with her and Nick, so I'm okay that she wasn't having him come in the bathroom and, get her off the toilet. Like, I would call my Frankie or my Joan Margaret if needed to do that for me.
Well, if you need help off the toilet, I'm really far away now. But
I know. we can Zoom call it, Krista. It'll be fine.
Do you have a statue in your house?
I don't. I don't have a very big house.
Okay.
It's to register for one.
Yes, register for a statue.
No, I'll put that on my wedding registries.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
The wedding that we hope will happen at some point when it's not delayed twice due to COVID.
We cross our fingers. Everything is COVID.
Yeah. Yay, COVID. But hey, Grace and Frankie's awesome, and it was fantastic to watch during COVID today. So cool. Yeah, but I should get a statue in my bathroom when I'm in my 80s, but I'll make sure that happens. Maybe there will be a real rise up by that point.
You never know.
Maybe.
It's actually kind of a brilliant product, so I hope that somebody out there makes it.
As long as
Nick
it doesn't
and I'll be two really old people trying to help each other off the toilet and falling over.
I wanted to go back. We've really traverse some paths here. I wanted to go back to the Shark Tank episode a minute because...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a Shark Tank person. I don't watch, and I'm putting it in very hyper quotes, reality TV very often. I think what I liked about the episode was its concept and the idea that they brought on Shark Tank. Like, I agree, making it a Shark Tank-like episode was fun. But for me, it did get a little bit tedious because of the whole, we want this judge and not this judge and this, and I don't know the difference between the judges. It almost seems like I should have watched Shark Tank before I saw the episode for it to actually land enough to be funny. And the reason for him was dumb. I agree with that piece. It made me feel bad. And I think it's Frankie, Frankie does try to tell Grace all throughout the season, it feels like you're, I don't know what the good words are, but basically getting buried in the marriage a little bit. And I think maybe that disconnect is what might be playing on you, Samantha, a little bit, just because she is so independent and she's, entrepreneurial and she's doing all this stuff with Frankie, but at the same time, there's a little bit of that damsel in distress. I'm going to be sublimated to my husband, but not so much that I want to tell him I can't get off the toilet. There's a lot of complexity there that played out very messily this time.
Yeah, and she just didn't seem like herself for a lot of the episodes. But one of the things, since we're still sort of toilet adjacent in our conversation.
The whole season was toilets, it's all toilet adjacent.
Yeah.
That the moment with the drug dealer where it had the marigolds in it or begonias in it, oh my gosh, and the stealing and that interplay with the cops that are like, what are you ladies doing? Like, that was a little glimmer of like, okay, here's like the legitimate personalities of these two women coming out of the frustrated, and Grace is so
Is that
embarrassed.
when they couldn't pay the bill at the restaurant, or is that a different time?
No, that's when
No, it was before.
yeah.
So before they went on the show,
When they left the
They let
toilet on the
back.
roadside, and then the drug dealer picks it up and hides her
Yep.
drugs.
Yeah, she has like the hidden SIM cards in it and everything.
I remember now.
SIM cards,
Sorry.
Right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Not
Frankie
just
busts out her "I'm an amateur detective" again, which I love when she does that. The toilet tracks, Grace. Yeah, just that was great, and yeah, just Grace going everything everything that Frankie said. It sounds unbelievable, but it's true. Like I love when they have those moments where Grace absolutely backs Frankie up, whether it's because she is telling the truth or because she's her best friend, and yeah.
Well, and backing her up in that very sort of prim and proper way of like, really no one could make this up. You have to believe her, while also being so embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is the situation we're in.
Also, I haven't read anything that indicates that Peter Gallagher is not coming back. I'm pretty sure he is coming back. I think that is part of the reason why they elongated the season next season, because there's lots of storylines here that they are toying with, and one of them I think will be the resolution of whatever happened to Nick at the end, which
They have to.
which in the table read episode they clarify as tax evasion. So, which he brags about numerous times in
He
previous
does.
seasons.
There are
Not
clues.
So there's that.
Yeah, but a lot of people brag about that, and they're not in jail.
Look, some people are lucky, Krista, and some people are not, even in the fictional world.
Yeah, there are clues sprinkled in, like especially after going back and rewatching season 6 today. Why does he sell the statue to the president of Uruguay?
Lots of shadiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, and not a lot of truth coming out of him when asked about it by Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we mentioned Mary Steenburgen's character, and that was a very interesting little reveal and insertion, and I love her. I love Mary in general every time she appears in things. She's great. But it was just, wow. So when you say they did Nick dirty by the writers, it's like, well, did they though? Because we didn't know a lot about Nick prior to walking into this season.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, they're very spontaneous couple, and they were, within the romanticizing of the, whatever you call that, winter-spring relationship. May-December, that's what I meant. May-December relationship, and all of that stuff, and kooky on the side, and now they've actually had to deal with being in a fully fledged marriage and all of this stuff comes out. So I kind of disagree with them doing Nick dirty. I think they've done Nick honestly. So, but he's dreamy, and if that's your motivation, I totally understand.
Well, speaking of dreamy, we have yet to talk about Barry.
Samantha, would you like to talk about Barry now? Hearts.
I would love to talk
I was convinced you were going to say Jacob.
But hey, Jacob came back for a hot second, and
I actually was really excited that he did.
Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off. We are going to talk about Barry and his cardigans.
But can we talk about Jacob and
Jacob is
Frankie's
also
relationship after?
I'm okay with that.
We will totally talk about Jacob.
Okay.
I just want to say he's also dreaming.
He is also dreamy.
Okay.
Okay, Barry.
Yeah, Jacob. We all love Jacob too. We're on the Jacob train, the Barry train, the Nick train for
Okay,
the
let's
most part.
put some in the parking lots now, and let's take one car at a time. Samantha, go.
I'm happy that he has practically almost gotten what he's wanted with the perma engagement, because he's just such a good guy.
Yeah.
And so many of his and Brianna's interactions, it's like, seriously, how has this woman kept him? It doesn't make sense. Like, why would he put up with that?
I don't think Brianna's that awful.
Well, I think with the lack of
All the time.
That was a very pregnant pause before that came. There was a visible calculation, like, is she really that awful? She could be that awful. Brianna,
I mean, she did have some legitimate points of concern with the donating of the sperm and how responsible the moms are going to be.
Yeah, I agreed with her on that, actually.
But oh my gosh, and the antics with Comic-Con happening in the hotel. And,
elves.
oh no,
I just want to point out the elves. Don't try to artificially inseminate your boyfriend's ex-roommate's lesbian partner when there's a comic convention in the same hotel. Just saying.
It sounds like reasonable advice to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's what we learned from Grace and Frankie.
Having been to many a Comic-Con, that moment when he was listening to them argue through the bathroom wall and then getting involved, it's like, yes, that totally happens.
Oh yeah, I missed a big chunk of that bathroom Comic-Con argument with Barry the first time that I watched it, and I have this weird habit of watching Netflix with subtitles on, just so I can do different things and I can catch up and whatever. So today, when I had the subtitles on, I actually got to hear the whole conversation for the first time, and there's actually, it's not just the room that, like, the bathroom or whatever, the room behind the bathroom that Barry's in that he's arguing with, there's a third party that comes in at the end of it and just says, yeah. Like, you may not hear it on the audio track depending on how high your volume is, but somebody else was listening in to not only the argument, but then Barry's rebuttal, and then this random dude just goes, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't realize it was a third party, so that adds some...
another room, and that's why Barry looks in the other direction like, what? It's very, very funny. I'm catching more of the little subtleties, because even, like, when they were doing the farewell brunch for Bud and Allison, like, Grace can't remember Allison's name. Nick comes in with Allison's name, but then 2 seconds later he says Bob and Allison, not Bud.
Right.
And it's like, I didn't catch that the first time around either. So there's all these little things that are very, very smart writing that I'm happy I watch it with subtitles, just so I can, I
got to go back with the subtitles.
Yeah, I don't know. I usually watch Netflix in the morning, like when I'm doing my hair and my makeup, so like my hair dryer's running, so I don't want to put headphones in so I can hear everything else that's going on, because we just adopted a dog, so I need to hear if she's doing something that she shouldn't be doing. So I just had the subtitles on, and it's just a habit now. I just watch Netflix with subtitles on until my fiance makes me turn them off, because he hates it. But I recommend it. You catch more. So,
Nice.
Yeah, sorry, weird sidetrack, but...
No, it's cool.
Yeah. So Barry at Comic-Con in the bathroom, where we left off.
Samantha, did you have anything else to say about Barry at Comic-Con? Barry in general? Barry hearts.
Just general Barry hearts. And I'm glad he gave the ultimatum of, like, nope, I'm done, to get the perma engagement.
And I agree with you. I am actually surprised that he agreed to that, but I'm happy because I think he's good for Brianna. I have to say I agree with her about her concerns, because his friends, I was like, oh, okay. Again, not perfect characters, and they don't have to be. They're not awful people, but if I were in her position, I'd be like, are we sure about this? Like, but again, it worked. I think it worked, and it was the impetus for him to kind of stand his ground, to bring their level to the next, or their relationship to that next term engagement level, whatever that turns into next season, you know?
Well, I think one of the magical things, so I'm going to go back to Krista's comment, she's not that bad. She isn't that bad. Her heart is in the right place. But she is unconventional in every aspect that you can calculate convention. She's unconventional, and she also is unfiltered. So you've got those two things going for her. But what we find out is that he's really unconventional too, and he's willing to be open-minded and explore those unconventional ways of life, including nurturing his baby's mama's very adventurous habits of jumping into volcanoes and such. So that's okay, but it's something that they each have to work through, and I think that makes them good for each other. I mean, I think he's good for her, but she's good for him too, because she gets to common sense him when he needs it and say, look, this is not safe. Although she probably shouldn't have said that straight to them first, she probably should have said it just to Barry first, but then that's the magic of Brianna. So
Really awkward, yes.
yes. Now we can pivot to Jacob, but before we pivot to Jacob, the major setup is that Frankie accompanies Grace and Nick to this charity benefit thing. And
Jerry Garcia's shoes.
yes, Jerry Garcia's former shoes from some concert are up for silent auction, and she meets a would-be suitor played by Michael McKean, who got a start on Laverne and Shirley, but has been in 1,000 other things, and starts dating him because, you know, he thinks she's pretty neat, and she's along for the ride, and then somewhere along the way, Jacob shows up. Because it's somehow spread out on the internet that Frankie's dying. Oh, because Saul puts on Facebook.
Saul doesn't know how to share things on Facebook.
Yes, he's dying of laughter or something, but it's not.
All he said was she's dying, and it's hard to watch.
Right, but meaning of laughter. And then Jacob sees that and comes to San Diego to basically pay his respects and say his goodbyes. And as it turns out, she's alive and well, and she's aiming to double deal with the two of the men for a time. So let's talk about that.
I'm glad it didn't work out, and I was disappointed that blew up and that Jacob left again, because I really think he's just so perfect for her. And I got excited when he's like, no, I want to stick around and make this work. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then, you know, things unravel as they do this season.
The Yam Man. We need him.
I love him. I was thinking about him actually when the new guy kind of made an appearance. I was like, oh, not really Jacob. And then all of a sudden he's there at the door. I loved it. And I didn't think it would work either, but I was really excited he's just like a part of the series. Like that, his character, just him in general. I love him so much that it felt good to see him again and to be part of the world where I'm like, oh, they didn't just forget about him. It just that he wasn't, that storyline had, you know, did its thing. You know, he came back. Like he's still sprinkled in there. He's still part of the thread of their story. I thought the whole trying to get like, what was that guy's name?
Jack?
Yeah.
Jack? Jack. When they were I just forgot. Clearly I'm team Jacob, but the fact that they were trying to like impress Nick and be like, okay, we gotta make sure that everything is good so we can take our trip and things like that. I thought that was pretty funny. And then Jacob showing up was real fun too. But
I hope we see more of him next season.
I hope he comes back for the last season.
I hope so.
I'm glad that they didn't, that sort of bouncing between the two of them was funny of like, oh, let's take a nap and have a glass of wine. And it's like, okay, hold on 1 second. And then going out, oh, I'm already pretty buzzed. Sure, yeah, let's have a picnic. Was funny, but I'm glad they didn't spread it out over several episodes or most of the season, because it would get old pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I agree with that too. One of my favorite situations that we haven't talked about yet is Joan Margaret's aim to stay legal and in the country.
that.
Oh my gosh, the speed dating for Joan Margaret.
She's such a hoot. I love
her so much, especially in this season. She's a little breath of fresh air and a sparkling little British light, and I love it.
She's a delight. A hoot is a great way to talk about her, and the fact that it morphed into speed dating at the retirement village to, when all else fails, Frankie will take one for the team was pretty
hard
hilarious. Marriage. So, and I just enjoy, I don't remember her full name, Millicent is her first name. I just enjoy her in this role. I think she's a great third wheel foil for Grace and Frankie when they're doing their business dealings, and I think it would be great to have her in a scene where it's Robert and Saul are also part of the scene, and it's the five of them. I think that would be a very interesting, sparkling, dialogue-filled situation if they could only think of a way to do it next season. I hope they find a way.
All right, come on, season 7.
I'm sure they will.
We're rooting for you for this.
Because we've really only seen Joan Margaret in the context of Grace and Frankie and the business, whatever the business is. So I think
we've seen her with Saul because she used to work for them.
Right. True, but not in the arrangement we see now, which is Robert and Saul married and ex-husbands to Grace and Frankie, and with all of their shenanigans rolled up into the mix.
Yeah, because I think the last time we saw her was when they were all talking about retiring. Right. Saul retiring from the firm and Joan Margaret retiring, and yeah.
Well, and to find out that she's not such a buttoned-up secretary, like they kind of lead you to believe right away, and just slow moving, and someone there to just make the ladies feel less old. That she has just so much more personality with the shenanigans.
Love it.
I love it. Like the first time we met her, she took the pen home because everyone steals office supplies.
And then she started eating other people's lunches.
Yeah,
she would order for them, and then she'd just eat them when they arrived.
I feel like she could have easily been like a character that they could have just like write off like a caricature, but she's actually one of those people that's grown on me too, for the reasons that we've talked about. She's a good fit for how spontaneous and kooky and crazy Grace and Frankie are together, and like she just fits. Like she gets it. She doesn't really. She has her one-offs. She has her things to say, but she's like a nice little piece of their crazy little puzzle with all their ideas and their crazy situations. Like she just goes with it. She's like, okay, or she has her own crazy stuff going on. I love it. I think it's great.
I feel like maybe she was intended to be that kind of throwaway character in the beginning, especially once Saul retired from the firm and they weren't even going to the law office anymore. I think that they really were like, you know what? When it's time to bring in an in-home aide for Grace and Frankie a couple seasons ago, I think it was just like, you know what? We really miss working with her. Let's bring her in and flesh her out a little bit more. I feel like that's maybe what happened. I don't know. But
who knows? But thank goodness.
Thank goodness. I mean, just the difference in her character from those early seasons until now is pretty stark, just the way that they had her written. So I love her way more now than I did at the beginning. And I agree. She forgot that, Robert and Saul would just fill out her green card employee form for her, and that's what Grace and Frankie needed to do. Oh no! Oh yeah, that's right. We can just do that.
Yeah, the moment where Grace flies in and is like, "Why are you even going through all of this? It's a piece of paper."
Yeah, it's 2 forms.
That she's not just that person to get into the antics with. That she's grown into sometimes that voice of reason too. When Grace and Frankie are fighting, of like, you need to get over yourself. Like, there's no reason for this.
That's what this show does really well, I think. The whole series is taking characters that originally were kind of cold to us, like whichever character, it doesn't matter who, and finding a way to incorporate them so well and write them so well that they grow on us and they become the fabric of the story, part of that fabric. Because I can't think of, talking about like Mallory and Brianna, and then talking about other characters that earlier it was like, what do we feel about these characters? And then as the series and seasons go on, you find more like they become a really legitimate part of the show in a way that you really, really like. And I think that is really good writing, and really good acting and really good like show producing and anything that goes into that. I think that that's a really successful thing that Grace and Frankie as a whole does across the board, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree.
We're just missing Dolly Parton.
All right, season 7, you got one more chance.
All right, Dolly in for a cameo.
2 things I wanted to make sure I mentioned, and one of them is the ribs, and the other one is Jessica.
Ooh, ribs first.
Oh, ribs for sure.
So talk about the ribs, Krista.
Okay, so Principal Dan.
Or just Dan is what Mallory calls him.
I forgot he was the principal.
I forgot too, actually. I was like, where did this guy come from? That's right.
I was like, who is Dan?
And turns out, he's awful.
Proud about that.
Yeah. He doesn't like Ed Sheeran. He just punch meat.
That's not why he's the worst guy ever, okay? But he is the worst guy ever.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, he was unhappy about those ribs.
He was unhappy about the service.
Because he used to be a waiter, you know.
Correct. And then he took it out on the ribs, much to the chagrin and the price tag of said ribs. And Barry was deeply disappointed.
I know, the look on his face, didn't have to say a word to just see that disappointment, and it was so funny.
Well, you can't beat a good rib.
No, I was really mad for Barry, though. I was like, I probably would have strangled that guy.
I would have hit him. I would.
Yeah.
If I'd have put...
I was hoping the punch would just come.
Yeah. If I was going to spend however much money they spent on that tiny little rack of ribs, I would have punched him.
Or someone should have done something sooner.
Yes.
Which is all I kept being is like, someone stop him. He's not big.
They were in shock. I think they were in shock, much of it, because this was the first time he showed this problematic side.
Him.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't mess with crazy people. No. He may be small, but when you're raging out, you never know.
Yeah, it was deep mid-rage. You can't just dive in there.
And also, I was just like, come on, man, like, kind of how I thought with the whole Nick thing of like, do all the men have to be garbage on this show? Except for Jacob?
Well, because they're Barry and Jacob.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone, I want Mallory to be happy with somebody just because she had a horrible marriage and a divorce, and now her kids are just non-existent on the show, except by vague mention, which I'm okay with.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I don't care.
But it seems, and this will segue into Krista's next point, but it seems like the show has been going back and forth about, do we want Mallory and Coyote together or do we not? Because they set it up where we think they might get together, but then Mallory meets this great guy in Principal Dan, who turns out to then be crazy. And so now she's single, but now Coyote is with Bud's
Jessica.
Former girlfriend from college.
Bud's former first time. That was not really the first time because of the couch.
It was Jessica's couch. So now Cody is with
Correct.
Jessica, or Coyote is with Jessica, and married all of a sudden.
They're very cute together.
They're
At
very
first, I did not like her because it was like, "What's your deal, lady? She's grown on me."
Yeah, I really like her too, but it's I'm
Jessica
tired of
way more than Allison.
I love Allison, so I guess I'm just the weird one.
I don't know. I'm tired of the will they, won't they with Mallory and Coyote, and now it's like, what are they going to do now? Because now she's single. He's potentially getting married to this Jessica.
I hope they're a won't they. I've never been keen on the two of them.
Oh,
I gave up on that idea a long time ago. The fact that we're still
it just seems like to keep doing, though. It's like, stop it or move on it, because at this point, I'm kind of done.
I'm kind of into it, or at least seeing like a maybe, just because Coyote has grown so much that he's actually worthy of her now, as opposed to in the beginning where he was just, we still don't know what he did on their front lawn, but it wasn't great.
No, we know what he did. He proclaimed his love for her in the middle of the he was drunk.
Wasn't he drunk and naked?
And high, he was on drugs too. And that was like his rock bottom point.
He was also naked. That's a good point.
Yeah. And naked, yeah.
Nothing says love like drugs and being naked on the front lawn.
And, I mean, he's kind of jacked, so that might not be the worst.
Yeah, now he is.
Yeah, right.
He was a little skinny when the show started. Now he's,
a snack, as the kids say.
What I'm thinking is probably going to happen, I think what they're setting us up for, possibly, maybe, is his relationship to Jessica will demonstrate to Mallory that he's ready for something that she can feel good about engaging in. And there's going to be all this drama on the side where she's like, oh, but I like you after all this time. And then there's going to be that conflict there.
Oh, I hope they don't do that, because that's been done before.
But I can see
That's a
them
prediction,
setting up.
Kylie?
What?
Do it.
Is that a prediction for
That is-
season 7?
I'll give it as sure. Yeah, I'll make it my prediction.
I'm into it.
Thanks.
I have no solid feelings one way or the other. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that progresses, especially with Mallory, potentially becoming Brianna's boss and maybe a relocation in her future. So
That's true. On the other hand, she could just become a self-actualized woman who don't need no man.
yep,
You can be self-actualized and have a man.
That's also true.
also true. There's plenty of self-actualized paths that you can take.
We're not even just limited to 3, but we're just spitballing. You know how things go.
Float your boat.
So is there anything else you want to say right now about what you like or didn't like? In fact, despite everybody's kind of initial qualms, this turned out to be mainly positive. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to bring our conversation full circle, because you started with the finale. I'm going to go back to the finale momentarily. What do you think about this whole thing? The setup for the next season. As you've mentioned, Robert and Saul's house is flooded because Frankie gave them a rise up out of the goodness of her heart, and it broke and it flooded their house. And so they showed up at the beach house and said, hello, roomies. And that's kind of the beat of where the episode ended. And then you also you've mentioned several times Mallory, she's going to be Brianna's boss. She's accepted this job and all of these other things. So what do you think about this cliffhanger? And you've asked me about predictions. What predictions do you have? Or hopes or wishes? Also, let me finish that question, because the next season is the 7th and final season. So what I would also like you to do is think about how you'd like the series to end. This is what I usually ask in a penultimate season podcast.
Oh,
I have a question I'd like to pose as well for the group, if that's all right. Do we think they're going to do a flash forward?
As an epilogue?
Yeah.
not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't see a flash forward. I think they're just going to tie it up, leave us with threads of here's where the stories are probably going to go in the future, but I don't see them doing an actual flash forward.
I wanted to end with just the two of them hanging out on the beach.
They have 16 episodes, so I don't know why they would need a flash forward. It seems to me they requested more episodes to be able to tie up what they've got. So
Okay, that's good.
that doesn't
I
mean
hope
that
nobody
it could be wrong,
dies. I really hope nobody dies.
I don't think they will, because it still is a comedy. We already went through the death with Babe. That was a pretty big death moment for the show.
Yeah.
So I don't see any of the characters.
I don't think they're setting us up for that at all.
Heck, no, I mean,
I'm just worried. It just concerns me because they are old.
I don't know. They've already done the health scares with the heart attacks and the cancers and everything
I
else.
think this is a show that shows that particular demographic can be fun. We can be invested in their story.
Mm-hmm.
To end it with any death of the characters written into the show, I think would defeat the entire purpose of the series.
Yeah.
If you ask,
The
I'd be
only
really
way that a death would happen is if one of the actors passed away.
yeah, actually.
Oh, it's so scary. They all better be just staying in their houses.
They already filmed it, didn't they?
No, they filmed some, but they had to stop in March because of the pandemic.
My prediction, I don't think that the four of them living in the beach house together is going to be a large chunk of next season. I think we're going to see it for maybe an episode or two, because it doesn't take too long to clean up a flood and fix a house when you're in the magical TV universe. So I see it as it's a great situation for a little while, but it won't last too long. I'm going to predict that Dolly's going to make an appearance because she has to at this point. This is her last shot and she needs to. And Netflix has her they did her Heartstrings little mini series where she's worked with Netflix, so she's already been on their payroll, so she can pop over to Grace and Frankie.
They have her social security.
Yeah.
They don't even have to fill out any tax form.
Right? They already have her tax form, so it's super easy. And I could see Barry and Brianna making plans to actually get married. I could see that kind of being a way to wrap up their story. Or, I don't know, maybe they want to start a family, whether it's naturally or through adoption or surrogacy, or maybe his 2 mom friends die and they get guardianship of the kid. I could see, if anyone's going to die, I would put it on one or both of those 2, more so than any characters. Yep, flying into an active volcano. I think it'd be really nice to see Robert and Saul finally go on that boat trip, especially since we had that really great montage of Saul learning to swim, and I'd like to see that pay off. I don't know, but I think Samantha's right. I think we're going to end it with Grace and Frankie on the beach. I think she's spot on. I think that's going to be our last shot, is the 2 of them on the beach, drinking, whether they're with a romantic partner or not. I don't care. I want the 2 of them to still be best friends, whether they're both living in the beach house or Grace is back with Nick, or Nick is, maybe he moves in. Maybe his trial goes in his favor and he loses his apartment or whatever. Maybe he just pays the back pay. I don't know, the taxes that he owes, and he ends up having to move into the beach house with them. But.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of like what you were saying about how, like, when they lost the beach house and then we only had like 2 episodes of them trying to get it back.
Yeah.
It'd be fun if Nick was on parole and had the anklet and lived at the beach house with them and Saul and Robert.
House arrest.
Just for like a hot minute, not like a permanent, but just to see that dynamic of like literally should put everybody in the same house. That's just kind of fun, like, to watch. I guess I'm hoping kind of actually the reverse, that Brianna and Barry don't get married and they don't have kids, and only because it's such a trope that if a woman says, I don't want kids, like, there's going to be some way that they end up having children. So it would be nice to see that represented on television. I'd like to see Mallory content. I don't know what that means necessarily. And, I want, like everybody else, I want that last shot to be them on the beach, Frankie having a joint and Grace having a martini. And, yeah, I want them to kind of land in a place where everybody, where we see glimpses of the future, but we don't, put everybody on a good path, basically.
I want one more product launch to go along with all their other product launches. And I would really like, if Dolly does do a cameo, it's more substance than
just being the spokesperson.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Maybe she's the famous person they get to sit on the rise up after they fix the problems with it.
Oh, there you go.
With 9 to 5 playing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Like, for me, I don't think I need a new product launch, but I still want them to try to make, because they're setting it up for them to continue with this Rise Up venture with the money and stuff. So it'll be interesting.
Hard cash.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah,
the vibrators were a 2-season kind of proposition, and I feel like the toilets are bigger, so they need this next season to actually
That's
get
why
the
they have more episodes.
Yeah, maybe. Just
it's all because of the toilets.
I don't know that I have any particular predictions other than what I've said. Grace and Frankie is very much the type of show, and I think I've said this before, where I turn it on and I just expect hijinks to ensue and me to laugh at them, and not necessarily knowing what's going to happen or predicting what's going to happen serves me well, because then it always catches me off guard and gets me to giggle when the moments arise. But I do think, I think they've got some really great launching points for the beginning of next season between the Brianna-Mallory dynamic, between, Bud still has to deal with the fact that Coyote and Jessica are together, which I don't think he's really dealt with yet. He might know, but I don't know that they've talked about it. And then I think you're right, I don't think the rooming together situation is going to be drawn out, but I think and I hope that we see the 2 couples together more, because when the 4 of them are together, it's just very magical. I mean, even though they're great as, scene partners separately, I love it when they shuffle the partners, when they put Grace with Saul, when they put Robert with Frankie, when they put all 4 of them together. To me, those are the best situations. Or then when all of the family, we barely talked about last season, all of you were kind of upset that Nick and Grace had gotten married off screen. Well, your payoff was in the season premiere. This time, you got the video of their Vegas wedding, which hijacked Bud and Allison's an entire wedding party. And it's those kinds of situations that leave me feeling the warmest and the fuzziest about Grace and Frankie, because this is such a well-developed ensemble. Huge big name stars. It obviously is a Fonda and Tomlin vehicle, but this whole cast is so good that I'm thinking they're going to pull out all the stops for us in this 7th season, and it's going to be funnier than it's ever been, let's hope, without building it up too much, I guess. So we've mentioned it's going to be 16 episodes. What do you think about that 16 episodes? That is 3 longer than all of the other seasons they've done. How do you feel about that?
I don't really have any thoughts about it.
You're just happy there's more?
Yeah, I think so, because it's usually about midway through the season, it almost starts to lose me a little bit. And then all of a sudden we run out of episodes, because they always tie up the end of the season so well with a nice cliffhanger that I'm always left craving more. So I fulfill that.
Kylie, I think I may have mentioned this to you kind of offline at some point, but like I watch it and all of a sudden the season is done. And it's like, oh shit, that went really fast, And so for me, I think it'll be nice to have a few extra to enjoy, and to hopefully it does wrap up in a really satisfying way. But I always think this, like, before you know it, because it's such an easy binge. It's such an easy show to watch. For all the reasons that we've mentioned, you can watch it. You don't get so invested where it's a hard thing to like follow. Sometimes the hijinks are a little too like, oh God, but they go so quickly that you're on to the next thing that I think it's exciting. I'm glad that there's extra episodes. I feel like it's going to go just as fast for me as it always does.
I feel like asking for 3 more to make it 16 is a very specific ask from their part to get the green light. So I feel like they have a very well thought out and planned story for next season in mind, which is why they needed those extra 3 like 30-minute episodes. And I wouldn't be surprised if a few of them are, I'm not going to say supersized, but are maybe a little longer than average for them if they needed to get in a few extra minutes. But yeah, that's just a very random number that you don't see in a lot of Netflix shows. Or either like 10, 12, 13, or they do like a 20-some. So this is kind of interesting and unique on their part too, that they're ending on a Sweet 16 set of episodes.
And to Kylie's point about hijacking the wedding party, Bud has this throwaway line, you're right, it's the end of our special day, let's go cry in the Bahamas. And I'm like, I don't know, it just speaks to the writing about how even the throwaway lines make me giggle. So I'll be curious to see.
But that line, let's go cry in the Bahamas, was it's a callback to how Allison comes into the wedding brunch with the post-nuptial depression, and she's already been crying. And
right.
So it's not just smart writing on the throwaway lines, but it's the smart writing to the whole series. I mean, even with going back to the video of Grace and Nick's wedding at the same party, they said that they were married, or not the party, but this was when Grace was telling Frankie at the opener that they were married by a Filipino Elvis impersonator, and Frankie just immediately names the guy, and Grace is like, of course you would know that. Yeah, that's who married us. It's those little moments that are just so brilliant, and I love the writers on this show.
Yeah.
They are very, very good at their jobs, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in store for us next season.
And they remember their own canon, which shows fail hard at. I'm like, okay, I'm a viewer, and I know that's wrong.
Well, and that's when I wonder if it's a testament to the longevity of the writers on this show, where they've been with the show for a lot longer, where other shows will have writers come and go a little more frequently, especially if they're like network writers. They may only stick around for a season or 2, so they may not know the canon as well as we do. But
they should.
Yeah, they should. They should have a whole Bible about here's our canon, like this is what we have established. But no, you're spot on. They know this show inside and out and are able to just do amazing things with their callbacks.
And they know their cast. They know who they're writing for. And they know how those actors are going to take the words and stage directions off the page and totally, embody what they need to do in the moment. I again mentioned the table read episode just because I watched it even though everybody else didn't. And
I was the one who shared it. Epic fail.
it's fine. Marta Kaufman and Howard J. Morris are on the table read, and Marta reads the stage directions, and the stage directions are hilariously brief but descriptive in ways that you wouldn't expect out of a teleplay. It's kind of funny. So you see that they know exactly what Jane or Lily or Martin or Sam or any of them are going to do in the moment because they've already done it. So they can sort of project how they're going to take these characters off the page, and it's just a really good simpatico between actors and writers in ways that don't always play out. Not just on network shows, but on shows in general. And comedies are even harder to kind of keep consistent sometimes. But I think they've done a really good job here. And to harken back to something Amy just said, ending in a way that's satisfying is how I would like to see the series end, whether that is on the beach or just in a way that reaffirms the central friendship of the show, I think is probably the most important piece of the show, because it was written around them and for them, and they've hit it out of the park ever since. And I think they need to do, to just keep to that edict and just keep to that idea, because that's what we're watching it for.
Yep.
Well, I don't think we need to really go over last time's predictions or wishes, because we kind of hit on them a lot already. Yeah. So, I'm going to ask you this question. The recommendation question goes away. I'm not going to ask you if you would still recommend the show, because we're going to hold on that, because we have one more season, and at this point, I'm going to hope that you answer this next question affirmatively. Are you going to keep watching?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. That means they're all coming back. So whether you recommend it or not is here nor there at this point. And then, what, if any, are your parting shots about this season? Anything, and this is, by parting shots, it's anything that we haven't already said or anything you want to kind of summarize in the moment.
I want to actually address a question that you had in there
Okay.
about something I said about Mallory last time, because I will say that I'm glad to see that they've given that actors the ability to have a stronger character. I was happy to see that Mallory has grown a backbone a bit, and that she was looking for other work, and that she has these opportunities, because I feel like she, just as along with other characters, deserves to grow and to be more than just a caricature. So I was really happy to see that. And I'm glad that she got the job offer she did. And I'm glad that she's putting Brianna in her place a little bit. I like it. I like to see it. I was glad to see that from last season to this season. So I wanted to address that.
Any other parting shots?
To me, the most adorable moment of this whole season was during the wedding reception, and they do the toast with the pieces of toast. Like, that to me was like, oh, adorable coyote, I love it.
One of my favorite moments was after that new, True Organic or whatever, that new company that took over Say Grace, when Brianna and Barry were meeting with the HR representative.
It's called Trust Us.
Trust Us Organics, thank you. Trust Us Organics. And they were meeting with the HR rep to officially put their relationship on file, so that way they knew everything was consensual and everything else. When they were asking, so describe your relationship, and essentially it boils down to the HR rep putting them down as roommates, and Brianna's like, wait, what? No, that's not it. That's not what we are. It's like, I don't know. That just felt awesome. I don't know. I loved it when they were just describing, well, no, I pay her because the house is in her name and she's really weird about money, and yeah, I don't know. It's very true, and it was just very funny, and I loved that. That was one of my favorite moments.
Anything else you want to say about Grace and Frankie season 6, or what you hope to see in season 7? Dude, I think I've done talked all these ladies out. Well, since we've talked all about Grace and Frankie season 6 and what we hope to see in the final season 7, what I'd like to do is thank Samantha, Amy, Kristen, and Krista for joining me once again to talk about Grace and Frankie. And because they've talked about Grace and Frankie, it's now time for the credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kelsey Rezmer. Kelsey played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole kit and caboodle was engineered and produced by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. Give us stars, give us comments, give us reviews. Let us know how we're doing. Send us a message. We might just read it on the podcast. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what we should keep, what we should toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via our social media, Facebook, Twitter at CPU Podcast, and Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We always have several more new episodes coming down the pike. Just listen to our intros, and if you miss old episodes or want to know in general what we cover, just find us. We are everywhere and searchable wherever you look for things on the internet. You can search for us, or you can subscribe on our website, our channels, our social media accounts. Stay up on our new events and episodes. Until the next time, all available seasons of Grace and Frankie are available to stream on Netflix, as that is the network who made it. Not because we keep saying their name for any reason. In the meantime, our Grace and Frankie panel will next reconvene following the release of the 7th and final season, the date of which has not yet been announced and which will most likely be delayed from its usual January release due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But as always, keep a weathered eye to CPU for all of the details as we stay up on things like that. In the meantime, and until next time, and until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.
Bye.